What's going on? What's crack-a-lackin', my peoples? How you doing? I'm Jerry Quickley, and this is happening. Let's get into it. I'm excited to be joining you. So we're taking your calls this hour. Please call me. It's my last day to have little live chats with y'all for about a week and a half or so. So give me a ring, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. We're going to play this first clip to kick things off, and this is Haley Jackson on MSNBC earlier today. She asked Peter Alexander exactly what is going on because Trump is calling for his former attorney, Michael Cohen, to receive a long prison sentence. The guy would take a bullet for Trump. Trump is like, throw him in jail for a very long time. He's worthless to me. You, sir, are worthless.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What's notable in these tweets is the president appears to be sending messages via Twitter to some of those key players involved in this investigation right now. As it relates to Roger Stone, he is praising Stone, a longtime former associate of the president's, for his guts. And Stone saying that he will not testify against President Trump. But then note what the president is saying on a separate item as it relates to Michael Cohen, his former longtime loyalist, longtime lawyer. Here's the president's tweet. He says, Michael Cohen asked judge for no prison time. You mean he can do all the terrible unrelated to Trump things having to do with fraud, big loans, taxis, etc., not serve a long prison term? He goes on to say that he lied for this outcome and should, in my opinion, serve a full and complete sentence. So even if you can't interfere with an investigation, you can't speak directly to those engaged in it. The president has given it his best try to communicate directly to some of these key players. In effect, some critics would suggest the president is saying, hey, stay with me and you're going to be just fine. If you get found guilty of anything, I could give you a pardon. Remember, he does have the presidential pardon power. And flip to that is, if you do what Michael Cohen does, well, I think I'm going to push for you to get a full sentence.
Witness tampering. I think the phrase you're looking for, sir, is witness tampering. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. What do you think about Donald Trump? Witness tampering from the White House, from the bully pulpit, biggest bully pulpit on the planet. 818-985-5735 is the phone number. Again, that's 818-985-KPFK. Let's give a listen to this next clip. This is from CNN. This is Attorney Paul Callan making very clear that lying is a serious felony. Well, Jerry, why wouldn't an attorney have to make clear that lying is a serious felony? Because everyone from the Trumpistan side of the fantasy football team is essentially saying that, well, all Mueller's really doing, what has Mueller really done? He's just busting people for, lying to the feds. That's not anything really, just lying. Conspiracies where people have colluded together to hide their real crime with lies, that's not significant. And they're literally calling, Trump supporters are calling all the felonies through which 19 people have been indicted or already pled guilty or been found guilty, all these dozens and dozens, essentially hundreds of felonies, that they amount to nothing because most of them are based on people lying. Yes, but it's lies being told by lawyered-up billionaires in an effort to hide the actual crimes, you doofus!
His extensive cooperation with the feds warrants leniency, even for the offense that he admitted to just last week, and that is lying to Congress. Repercussions from that plea may be felt for weeks or months to come. He is cooperating. We should note that. Joining me now to talk about that and more, CNN legal analyst Paul Callan, and from the Washington Post, CNN political analyst Sungmin Kim. Thanks to both of you for joining us on this Monday. Paul, this phrase has taken hold among the president and his supporters that lying to the FBI, lying to Congress is just a process crime. I'd like to ask your view of that as a lawyer, because of course raises the question, what can the FBI or Congress do if witnesses in sworn testimony don't tell them the truth?
Well, they have enormous power, law enforcement authorities do, when witnesses lie in investigations. And, if you look at white-collar crime in general, the Trump administration is now experiencing something that lawyers have known for a long time. And sometimes it's not the crime, it's the cover-up that does people in. And a lot of times when you have a complex white-collar investigation, people start to tell lies to FBI agents, to federal investigators, to grand juries. And often it's difficult to prove the underlying crime, but it's easy to prove the lie. And you look at the Watergate scandal, many other scandals that have done in political figures in the United States, and it has to do with lying to law enforcement authorities. It's a serious crime.
This is the most basic lesson that any lifelong politician or political operative can tell you. It's rarely, if ever, the crime that you get busted for. It is the 1,000 things you do to hide the crime. And each of those things is a goddamn felony. We're taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. I'm Jerry Quickley. This is happening. I hope you had a really wonderful monster weekend. I did. Just FYI, I'll share with you. I made some miso and some avocado toast and some egg whites for my mother, and that was kind of like the highlight of my weekend. Some video games, trips to the Y. I know, overshare, Jerry. No one's interested. Take your calls here at 818-985-5735. Again, the phone number here is 818-985-KPFK. I have the question for you. Do you believe that what has occurred with the Trump administration is something that the Trump administration is referring to as process lies? Like, just in the process of running this criminal enterprise, of course we have to tell lies. That's just how it works. But it's meaningless because this is process lies. It's not like something real. It's not like we're running a giant global conspiracy by billionaires with state foreign assets involved and people being killed by MBS and Putin, and we're deeply involved with both of them beholding because I promised MBS a reach around if he would finance my next 7 condos, and he promised those developments to me. And so my name is Donald Trump. There's nothing to see here. Please move on. Do you think there's anything called a process lie? You know what other people call it? They call it perjury. They call it lying to the FBI. They call it lying to the Senate. These are all felonies. And essentially, the felonies that these lawyered up global billionaires have spun in an effort to hide their real crimes, they're saying, you shouldn't look at that. We shouldn't be convicted for just lying to hide what we were actually doing. We shouldn't be treated as felons. Why are you looking at me? I'm not black. Why are you still here? Oh, can't you find some black guy to go arrest? You bastard. 818-985-5735. I was channeling Paul Manafort's wife. 818-985-5. She said that. That's actually in the FBI record. She said that when the FBI popped up standing over her and her hubby in bed in their PJs as they served Paul Manafort with a black man search warrant, a.k.a. no knock. Taking your calls, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Next up, let me see. First up, let's talk to Bill calling from Northridge. Bill, welcome to the show. What's the deal?
Hi. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay, I want to ask you, what is this all going to really amount to when you really look at this man, and especially it becomes even more dramatic when you look at what Trump really is and you compare him to the late George Bush. A man of morality, a man of family, a man who did a lot of good. Is this really going to mean anything? I mean, in terms of impeachment, or what is it all going to lead to? Really, the legal end of it. Is there even a chance he could get impeached, especially with a Republican Senate?
I think there's a distinct possibility that he can be impeached. One of the reasons I believe there's a distinct possibility is because there's a deep hatred for Donald Trump. He's only supported by about 40% of the country, and Mueller hasn't even released his report. Okay, the fact that he's supported by 40% of the country is crazy to me, but I understand it because I understand the power of white supremacy. I understand the power of racist white people not wanting to be demoted to equal status with people of color. And that is the cloying crack that Donald Trump keeps stuffing in their racist little pipes for them to smoke. Now, in terms of what change can possibly occur that might have the Senate move in a healthier direction, by healthier, I simply mean enforcing the law against Donald Trump. When it comes out in this report that Donald Trump was deeply involved in collusion with the Russians from stem to stern, it's going to be increasingly difficult for him to find all Republicans moving in lockstep. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But the combination of the report being released by Mueller, us being in the street demanding change makes it that much more, and the Democrats in charge of the House of Representatives makes it that much more difficult and precarious for the Republicans to not move on impeachment. And it also puts them on a very small ice cube that's shrinking in a hot pot of water, because if they refuse to act come 2020, that ass is mine.
Well, I hope you're right. But again, another thing that, to me, I want the Democrats to have a message, not only about impeachment, not only about Russia, but a message that's going to resonate with voters, and have a candidate that has enough charisma and political background to be strong enough to put the message across. Do we have such a thing?
I think there are several great candidates like that. I'm gonna leave you with this, because you don't even have to look further than that. And people say, "No, Jerry, this person doesn't have the experience." Experience means they're sold out. AOC, Alexandra from Queens. Alexandria from Queens. That's it, man. I think she can work wonders. If Nancy Pelosi really wanted to hold it down, she'd say, "Oh, I want AOC to be Speaker of the House." And guess what? I'm not going to just leave her out there like that. Me and a team of senior House members are going to be her counsel to support her, bring her up to speed, and help push through her agenda. We're not going to use her to push forward our agenda. We're going to do everything in our power to play beta to AOC and help to push through her agenda. We can remake this country, y'all. Don't believe them when they tell you we can't. 818-985-5735 is the phone number. That's 818-985-KPFK. Also, not even a correction, but here's my take on George Bush Sr. He was not some wonderful patriarch, noblesse oblige, who, is patrician and he's wonderful. No, he wasn't. He was racist scum. He was murderous, racist scum. His father, start with that. His father was a war criminal. During World War II, his father traded directly with the Nazis to make money. Prescott Bush was sent to prison for it. Very few people were sent to prison for trading with the Nazis in World War II. George Bush murdered hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. Most of them were women and children. He specifically targeted civilian infrastructure at the end of the war. And the reason he targeted civilian infrastructure was that so once the war was done, he would have leverage power over Saddam Hussein, right? That was their whole plan. We're going to leverage Saddam Hussein. We're going to make the lives of the population so miserable that they will rise up against Saddam. And that's not at all what happened. When you gut the infrastructure of a country that is as corrupt as Iraq was, the elites don't feel it. Their lives continue to move on. But what happens to the population? Hundreds of thousands of people died from the broken sewage treatment plants, from compromised food and water systems, from the flour mills that were destroyed. He literally killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. That murderous bastard is burning in hell for sure, because there's no way, I'm not sure of what religion on the face of the earth makes it worthwhile to say that, yes, when you murder hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians, most of them women and children, you get to go to heaven. That bastard is burning in hell, and I couldn't be happier. He was a murderous white supremacist. He lived his life that way, and he died that way. He took his racism to the goddamn grave, because that's what most racists choose to do. Next lesson, 818-985-5735. I get worked up, man, because I was there. I saw what he did to those kids in Iraq. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5. You remember Willie Horton? Remember that? Remember that bull? Right? Remember, what was that jackass's name who ran the RNC? Lee Atwater. Lee Atwater, racist piece of filth, who came up with this Willie Horton ad to go after Dukakis. And there, look at this black guy. Look at this big black face taking up your whole TV. He was released from prison and stabbed a white man and raped a white woman. And it's this liberal's fault rats over here. It was so horrific that 3 years later, Lee Atwater was dying of a cancerous brain tumor, and he called Dukakis and other people from the Dukakis camp, begging and pleading for their mercy as he apologized profusely for being such a race-baiting piece of filth. And he was Bush's race-baiting piece of filth. He did that for George Bush. Don't even get me started on that one. Oh, God. George Bush was not a goddamn knight. Taking your calls here, 818-985-5735. You people get me worked up. I know I'm in a room alone, but I blame you. 818-985-5735 is the phone number. That's 818-985-KPFK. Next up, let's talk to John, calling from Los Angeles. John, welcome to the show. What's the deal? Hey, John, you with us? Hey, John, you with us?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing, John?
Yeah, so, hopefully the room has padded walls, the room you're in.
Barely.
I was going to say that, you could even go further back to Iran-Contra. I mean,
Yeah, he refused to testify to special counsel during Iran-Contra. He literally broke the law. He refused. Oh, God, he's such racist scum.
Of course, because he was an orchestrator. You can't, he doesn't want to go and lie to anybody, so rather than lie, he just won't show up.
Right.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, I don't know. I have crazy feelings about this whole situation that we're in, and you were asking about how it affects us as a society. I was that's how I was interpreting what you were saying, because ultimately, whether or not Trump is impeached, it's kind of immaterial. It really, the most important thing is that in the court of history, he will either be exonerated or he'll be crucified, and I quite honestly think it's going to be the latter, and way deservedly so. But what's the bigger crime with Donald Trump is what he's done to the mindset of this country, and how the bar has been lowered, and granted, there's a lot of crap that goes on behind closed doors. Obviously, the perfect example is the new narrative that's being fomented for George Herbert Walker Bush, being this lovely, wonderful guy. I'm sure there was lovely, wonderful things about the guy, but there's a lot of horrible things that he did.
Hitler loved his dogs.
He loved his dogs, and he loved his wife, and he was in the CIA. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, he was the head of the CIA. George Bush was the head of the CIA in a period where they mercilessly slaughtered people of color around the world when they disagreed with their politics. They weren't above killing anyone whose skin wasn't white.
And not to mention heroin coming from Southeast Asia. Who knows?
Right.
There's a lot of people.
Air America back in the day.
That's right. And that's very much a part of his world. So, but my biggest concern is really the mindset of this country, and the mindset of someone who can flout the law, being basically supposed to be the keeper of the law, the highest office in this land, and he's supposed to be adherent and respectful of the law, and he is anything but. So I feel like sometimes, we hyper focusing on getting Trump. It's really more important to, I think, get people to realign their thinking. We've got such a football mentality in this country. Everybody thinks their team, whatever color their team is the team to go with. And I'm an American first. If the Democrats are screwing up, I'm going to be pissed off at the Democrats. I don't,
right.
Equally. So I feel like we
bullying, malfeasance, and corruption is not something that should be supported. It doesn't matter if it's part of a political party that I may or may not support. It can't be supported.
It cannot. And furthermore, I think that there's a very good possibility that Mueller may not ever come out with. He's not necessarily obliged to put out his results. I mean, if his report comes out and he feels like it's counterintuitive to put it out in this country at this particular time, obviously he could put it before the Senate, but they can all vote to say, no, we're going to kind of keep this buried and we'll deal with it later.
But you know what, John? Mueller's, it's not his first time in the rodeo. And as a result, he has been very effectively telling the story of his findings through his indictments and through the plea agreements. These are a matter of public record. They can't be recollected by the Justice Department or some corrupt milquetoast lurch, a.k.a. Whitaker at the Justice Department, acting AG Whitaker. Milquetoast lurch can't do anything about it because it's a matter of public record. It's a matter of the court documents. There are sealed indictments out there, likely, not proven yet, but likely there's already sealed indictments out there, plus the indictments that have already been handed down, plus the guilty pleas, plus the sentences. That's a tremendous body of work that Mueller has already brought forward, and that was just as he was climbing the mountain so that he could get to the Temple Trump to destroy it.
Well, you're right, and I think that also protecting. He's been very, very good about keeping the offices sealed. There's nothing getting out until it's time.
Right.
Like, there's no leaks. There is nothing getting out, and he's proving that can be effective and that can happen. Unlike across the street in the executive branch. But really, the truth is, I worry about how this is going to affect the mindset of the country and what is going to become acceptable in as far as the behavior of if our leadership is behaving this way. In a weird way, I use this analogy a lot. Everybody's complaining about the cat pissing on the bed and the house is on fire. That's the problem.
Yeah. The FCC won't allow me to air your metaphor, but I understand. I definitely understand what you're saying. Here's the net. The net is that if we decide collectively as a nation that we do not have the strength or ability to rid ourselves of Trump and his openly criminal ongoing enterprise, if we somehow allow him to take a pass on this and continue to pretend psychotically as though this is normal, I have one simple question for you. What comes after Trump? Because my opinion is what comes after Trump is the republic is done. This can't be allowed to stand because every cheap grifter who's able to get some kind of local popularity as a Republican and able to assault voting machines will continue in Trump's vein, assaulting all LGBTQ people and people of color and women and the xenophobia, and they'll loot the country because that's what's happening now. We cannot allow this to stand. And the main reason we can't allow it to stand is because I can't imagine the country that would be left in Trump's wake if we allow this to persist. We're taking your calls at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Let's give a listen to this next clip. This is former U.S. Attorney Shan Wu speaking with Jim Sciutto on CNN. And Shan Wu is real clear. He's like, what you talking about? Ain't no such thing as process lies.
And that term process crime, it's just nonsense. I mean, it's a crime. It's a crime to make false statements to investigators. It's a crime to make false statements to Congress. It's basically perjury. So that's a substantive crime. It's not just a mere process crime. And as you were saying, Jim, I mean, it's a PR campaign here. So the Trump people want to spin that as, oh, there's no real substantive crimes going on here. It's all these process crimes. But, when you look at this investigation, the amount of false statement convictions is just unbelievable. I mean, it permeates the entire situation here, and that says a lot about what's going on and also raises the question of what is it they're all so desperately trying to hide at this point.
Yeah, what are they trying to hide at this point? That's the question, isn't it? We shall have the answer shortly. 818-985-5735 is the phone number. I'm Jerry Quickley. This is happening. Couldn't be happier joining us today. Also want to remind you that you can follow us online. Just go to YouTube and search for Jerry Quickley and then hit subscribe. We put up new videos every day. We put up a video earlier today. There's another one going up later. And you can also follow us on SoundCloud. Go to soundcloud.com/TIH Live. Again, that's soundcloud.com/TIH Live. And you can follow me on Twitter using the handle @JerryQuickley on Twitter. Again, that's @JerryQuickley on Twitter. I love having those silly little discussions. You freaks there. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Next up, let's talk to Jeff calling from Michigan. Jeff, welcome to the show. What's the dealio?
Hey, Jerry, how do you keep your voice, man?
I'm working on it, buddy.
How do you do it? With all those, I love it, man. It just makes me feel good to hear you. And I wanted to mention about G.W. or G.H.W. Bush. He gave us Clarence Thomas.
Yeah. Remember him waving that bag of crack from the Resolute desk? Look, this bag of crack. A Negro sold this bag of crack across the street. I remember that.
Oh, he said, I'm going to give you a black man. It was Thurgood Marshall that he substituted Clarence, I don't ask a question, Thomas, to sit on the Supreme Court, who told people who interviewed him at the L.A. Times, you can look it up on the Internet, he said he wasn't that impressed with the job because there was no money in it, no big houses. He said Ginny and he like to go riding in their RV, and he likes to watch sports.
You know, his wife Ginny called Professor. His wife Ginny called his victim.
Can you believe that she doesn't know?
Back in 2014, Clarence Thomas's wife called Anita Hill and left a message saying, "You should apologize. It's about time. You should come through with it."
Are you kidding?
Oh my God! Here's the greatest news that I have about anyone who would do something that horrible. When they get to heaven, the pearly gates, they're going to be kicked in their face and sent flying down the steps to hell. So here's that.
Here's what H.W. did as well. He pardoned all the Iran-Contra guys before they got to him.
Yep.
Lawrence Walsh, a Republican prosecutor, a guy that was a lifelong Republican,
went
through a huge investigation, got the Secretary of Defense, Caspar Weinberger, convicted, got all kinds of, Elliot Abrams, got all kinds of people convicted, and H.W. came in and pardoned them all. And pardoned them, I think, before they were sentenced. Wow. And so now we have this guy, who, in my opinion, is a wannabe mafia. Always wanted to be, talks like one, acts like one, has the same disdain for law.
Yeah.
And he sits on the top of the executive department branch of this government, where he is supposed to enforce the laws. And he is openly telling Paul Manafort, by way of saying what a great guy he is and he won't flip, and how Cohen's different from him.
It's witness tampering.
Cohen needs to, and Cohen needs to be really slammed in the slammer.
Yeah, Cohen needs to spend the rest of his life in prison, but Paul Manafort, he's going to get a walk. And that's the message that Trump is giving.
It looks like that deal has been communicated from the beginning, and Paul Manafort knows he's going to get pardoned for all these federal crimes.
Yeah, but Mueller's brilliant, because Mueller had Manafort sign that plea agreement, which acknowledged that Manafort was guilty not just of the federal crimes, but that he was also guilty of the state crimes. The state crimes are also in Mueller's plea. So Trump can do anything he wants in terms of, or also Manafort's plea. So Trump can do anything he wants in terms of giving a pardon to Manafort, but Manafort has already pled guilty to all these state crimes, and these are serious felonies that'll lock him up for the rest of his life. He ain't going nowhere.
Wow, I didn't know he had pled to those. I understood that the prosecutor could still bring those on the state level. I didn't know Manafort.
My understanding is that I'm going to check on it, but my understanding, I've read this a couple of places, Washington Post and the Times, is that the Manafort's plea with Mueller included the state charges, which means it doesn't matter what Trump does.
That's not even in Mueller's. That's not really in his jurisdiction, because he's there for federal crimes. I don't know how I want to check that too. But what's more interesting to me, and it came up, and this is why your question is so great tonight, it crossed my mind. These are signals, and these guys are working right out in public.
Right. This is open corruption.
Obstruct justice.
Open obstruction of justice.
Exactly. I mean, they're right out there. It's right out in the front of all of us. And the question is, what is the education level of the American people at this time? And I'll tell you what, I don't have much respect for that.
Yeah, well,
I think our smart people are dying off, man.
But people are being willfully. There's a difference, right, between someone who is actually ignorant and someone who is willfully ignorant. They are not the same thing.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, and I honestly, it is my belief not that the 40% of the country that supports Trump are ignorant. I'm sure some of them are, just like there's some ignorant people in the other 60%. But the vast majority of those people that support Trump are willfully ignorant. They choose They choose to walk around They choose to walk around with blinders, acting like they're not in a burning building because they think the right people are being burned to death.
Hey, Jerry, I got to tell you how lucky we are to have a guy like you. He understands almost all of this, almost like an attorney. You are, and you're out of New York. I know you are. I know you grew up near the UN. Hey, I don't know where you got your education, man, but I'll tell you, it's really useful right now. This is hugely useful, what you're doing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I got my my education at a little school called Manhattan Street, a dojo on 7th and Avenue A. Nisei Goju Ru. Thank you. Thank you, Sensei Ruiz. You kept me strong. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818. Also, Sensei Roldan. 818-985-KPFK. I'm Jerry Quickley. This is happening. Let me see. Next up, let's talk to Miguel calling from Boyle Heights. Miguel, welcome to the show. What's the deal?
Good afternoon, Jerry.
Hey.
Thank you for your program. I listen to it every day. But anyways, they want to saintonize George W.H. Bush, but isn't he the one that went to meet with the Iranians to make sure that the hostages wouldn't be released before the election?
Yes. Actually, I am very extremely tangentially. I have an extreme tangential connection to that. I used to work on Wall Street, and I worked for a firm that essentially built real-time mathematical models using feeds from exchanges, right? That basically, if you were a trader, you had her stuff on your desk. And a guy bought the company, and this guy who bought the company was essentially the bagman for Ronald Reagan, and he's one of the people that actually traveled to Iran and actually met with the Iranians. And the fact that George Bush was part of the Reagan plan to keep Americans locked up in Iran until Reagan was in power, so it would look like Reagan was responsible for this. That is the exact same type of illegal back-channel dealing that the Trump administration sought to do in their transition to start negotiating directly with America's adversaries as though Obama wasn't in power. These people are scum, and they've been scum for a very long time.
Jerry, you said the what I wanted you to say exactly, and I'll let you go now because I want other callers to go in and talk to you. But thank you for your program. I really enjoy it every day. Have a nice evening.
Hey,
Bye.
Miguel, thanks so much for listening every day, buddy. I really appreciate that. Without you, there's no us. Hey, Miguel, go to YouTube and look me up. Just search for Jerry Quickley and subscribe. What you up with new videos every day. Really appreciate y'all listening. Love the support. Without I don't know what I'd be doing right now. I probably, making origami in the basement of some townhouse in Berlin, saying everything's fine, I'm writing operas, my life is nice. I'd be doing that. That would be the broken 8-track loop in my head if I weren't here and didn't have y'all for support. Taking your calls, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Let me see. Next up, let's talk to Matt calling from Fresno. Matt, welcome to the show. What's the deal?
It's funny. Earlier, I just put a post up about it's not just the corporations or the ignorant that are the problem or the threat of the downfall. It's the willfully ignorant.
Right.
On one side, we got jackboot fascism on one side of the aisle, and then on the other side, we've got penny loafer fascism with a white wine spritzer and a little bit of lube. And also, as far as George H.W., I sure hope at one of the funerals they'll remember to cut his head off and drive a stake through his heart.
To his dead body, that's not a crime, right? I don't think that's a crime. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. We live in such a racist society that if Ronald Reagan came back from the grave as a zombie and I murdered zombie Ronald Reagan, I might be shot by the police. That's how crazy it's like. You could be a rich white man and come back as a zombie, and no one touch him. He might get normal again. We're taking your calls here. I'm sorry, Black Nerd Sci-Fi. Obviously, I spend too much time wasted. 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Next up, let's give a listen to this clip. This is Jim Sciutto on CNN talking to former U.S. Attorney Robert Rousey, and basically saying that Trump's lies were horrific, and not only were they horrific, but these lies that the Trump administration and people in his administration, as talking heads connected directly to Trump, were spewing, those lies are being actively corroborated in real time by Russia.
Well, there's another twist in the screw here, which is what Adam Schiff, whose name I think the president will learn how to spell shortly, and Jerry Nadler, who will be the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, have both focused on in the last week, which is that the president was making misleading statements that were being corroborated at the time by Russia when they knew they were misleading. And the question of whether that provided a foreign adversary undue influence and ability to leverage the president, because in effect they were functioning as his alibi, as a Kremlin spokesman acknowledged just the other day that the Cohn statements were accurate. And so I think the larger dynamic here, Jim, is that you now, with the Democrats about to take control of the House, you now have another player in the arena, and the ability of the administration to kind of make these allegations unchallenged, because certainly Mueller is not conducting his investigation in public, will end. And you will see, I think, you will see all of these events from a very different vantage point, and that will, I think, influence the way the public debate unfolds.
The vantage point is called a federal prison, and today Donald Trump Jr. will be modeling a new jumpsuit from the No Money on My Books collection. 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Taking your calls here. Let me see. Next up, let's talk to Alan calling from L.A. Alan, welcome to the show. What's the deal? Up?
Hey, Jerry, it's a real honor to speak with you, and I totally appreciate your show. I listen to it as often as I can. This brings up with H.W. one of the sinister and most really racist chapters in U.S. history. When H.W. was part of the CIA, you'll remember a person named Gary Webb has documented the Dark Alliance, and Robert Perry has also documented that the CIA was assisting the cocaine infusion of tons and tons of cocaine into the neighborhoods of South Central LA through Freeway Ricky Ross. Who was in charge of the CIA when that was happening? George Herbert Walker Bush. So I just want to say people should not forget Gary Webb. May he rest in peace. And he was unfairly charged and suffered horribly because of it. And I'll let it go at that. And just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate hearing from you. Yeah, there's a great documentary out on FX now called Snowfall, if you want to know what happened. It's a documentary series. It's not a drama. It's a documentary. It's called Snowfall. Check it out. In terms of, wow, I miss Gary, man. Yeah, you kind of hit me with that. I wasn't expecting to hear that. I really miss Gary, and I miss the work that he did. Pulitzer Prize winner Gary Webb, who did an expose on the CIA and the Iran-Contra cocaine connections. When Reagan died, The day that Ronald Reagan died, I had a dance party on air celebrating the death of that murderous white scum. And, some people were upset. I was taking calls. But my guest, unpacking all the horrors of the Reagan administration and the Bush administration, was Gary Webb. And Gary was fearless. He was like, "Oh, you're having a dance party because Reagan's dead, and you want to celebrate that, and you want me to talk about Reagan? No problem, Jerry. I'll be there." Gary, I love you, man, and I miss you. And the world is worse off for not having not just your talent but your fire. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Next up, let's talk to Ivan calling from Corona. Ivan, welcome to the show. What's the dealio?
Hey, how's it going, my friend?
Good.
Hey, I just want to say, we're always talking about the border now and the caravan, when what you really have to realize is that the caravan was literally designed and officiated back in the 70s and the 80s by George Herschel, whatever his name is, Walker Bush, and the Black Eagle operation. When you look at El Salvador, when you look at Honduras, when you look at Nicaragua, when you look at Panama, he and Casey, back since 1982, literally launched secret campaigns to basically destabilize that entire region.
Right, exactly. It's nonstop. You're exactly correct. It's been nonstop since really the mid-'70s. And you could trace it back further than that, but in terms of modernity, it's been nonstop since the late 70s with Somoza and our involvement with him, with Nicaragua, with El Salvador, with Guatemala, with the coups. We supported a coup in Honduras just a few years ago. This is blowback from horrific U.S. policy seeking to control these countries. We've made them unlivable, and then when they say, "Oh my God, we can't live here anymore, this is unlivable, please, we're requesting political asylum," we tell them that they're criminals.
Yes, sir. Two other points I want to make, and I'll let you go. 1989, Tiananmen Square massacre. GHWH, a former fighter pilot, literally was too tepid to even speak out on it.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that I want to talk about was way back in 1964, because nobody begins in the 80s who fought in World War II to become somebody who is so wishy-washy that you can't be trusted. He used to be considered, a northern, more moderate guy. He went down to Texas because that's where his oil ventures were going to be, and now all of a sudden he becomes a Dixiecrat, even though the Dixiecrats rebuked him. So what did he do to prove his allegiance to him? He denounced the Civil Rights Act in 1964.
Right.
And you can go all the way back from his beginnings. He'd do anything to get elected, all with that Willie Horton fiasco, which the guys who administered it repented from their grave. Bush went to his grave. And like you said, I don't really believe in hell, but I think there's a made place specifically for him that's got no walls and no windows.
Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate hearing from you. Yeah, it's obscene for the Bush administration to portray that, we're a Southern family, we're a Texas family. No, you're not, you scum! You're from Kennebunkport, Maine. You just put Texas on like a goddamn feathered boa, you freak, with pasties and G-strings. You danced around on stage with Texas like it was a worthless sex worker, not a sex worker to be respected, like a worthless one. The Bushes. Don't hold on your projectile vomit, because soon it'll be Jenna Bush's turn, right? It's my turn, Daddy. Where are the keys? 818-985-5735, 818-985. Look into her high school days in Italy. Oh, my. They were interesting. This is in no way slut-shaming. This is about what the Bushes have hidden. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. It's about drugs, and it's about the fact that the Bushes had to essentially leave America, sweep into Italy, and collect their drug-addled child, bring her back to the States, and pretend that nothing ever happened. And when George Bush Sr. was running for president, he was asked before, well, have you ever traveled abroad? He's like, well, no. Well, just once. It was the trip to Italy to collect his daughter. Can you imagine being the child of that freak? 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Let's give a listen to this clip. And this next clip, this is from CNN. And you're going to hear Rudy Giuliani complain about how Manafort and other witnesses are being treated, followed by former U.S. Attorney Shan Wu issues a warning to Giuliani. What?
I think the special prosecutor has stepped over the line now with the way he's intimidating people in order to tell what he believes is his version of the truth. This is what's wrong with these special prosecutors and independent counsels. They think they're God. I mean, they think they know the only truth that exists, even if there's a lot of doubt about it.
Now, beyond this being rich for Rudy Giuliani, the former DA, who I'm sure pressured a witness or two to cooperate with the prosecution, beyond the richness of that, is there anything legally unethical for a special prosecutor to offer leniency, in effect, although this agreement, we don't know what that leniency is, but to offer something in exchange for cooperation?
No, absolutely not. I mean, that's exactly the way that we have cooperation structured, and Rudy Giuliani certainly is, as you said, very familiar with that. I think, there's a danger he's creating for himself here. I mean, making these sorts of assertions is one thing when we all know they're completely baseless, but he actually potentially has a base, which is he had this very risky, unusual joint defense agreement with the Manafort attorneys, and if he's actually relying on information from them and saying that that's the truth and the special prosecutor is saying X but Manafort knows Y and Y is the truth, then he's really turning himself and his team potentially into a witness. So it's one thing if they're just baseless hot air, but if there's some substance to it, then he's actually putting himself at risk.
There it is. Taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Next up, let's talk to Lisa calling from L.A. Lisa, welcome to the show. What's the dealio?
Hi there. I just wanted to throw a little optimism and rewind to your comment about what comes after Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Bush Jr. wasn't so bad, we would have never got Obama. And without Trump, we would have never had 100 women in the House sitting there today.
Right.
I mean,
we can leverage this into something good and better, but that's not going to happen if we give Trump a pass.
Well, absolutely not. But sometimes, you got to hit rock bottom before you can build back up. And I think this is waking America up to do just that. And so I want to, just put a little optimistic sprinkle on things, because I do think Mueller is coming, and I think we're going to see this go down. This isn't the 1950s.
Right. Thanks for the call. Appreciate hearing from you. I'm guardedly optimistic, and with a tiny bit of pessimism, but I am optimistic. I get up every day, with a fire inside of me, trying to work on changing this, trying to work with y'all on changing this. We're all part of the same fabric, y'all. Same tree, same culture. We're all just trying to make sense of this as we take care of ourselves and our families, but that's not enough. Your heart has to be large enough for you to want to take care of others as well. If these bastards have convinced you should just be taking care of yourself and your family, they already won, because you are standing alone. We're taking your calls here at 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. Let me see. Next up, let's talk to Hassan calling from Echo Park. Hassan, welcome to the show. What's the dealio?
Oh, hey, Jerry. Love your show, man.
Thanks.
I never miss it. Really quick, Jerry, I just wanted to say there was a joke back in the day that if Bush couldn't have found a Clarence Thomas, he would have invented one. So basically, we were kind of doomed either way.
Yeah. Well, the net is there's always someone. You can find someone that you promise riches to and a lane for them to operate in where they get things that they would not be able to get otherwise. You'll always find some Larry Elder or some Clarence Thomas. The fact that you'll find someone who's willing to essentially do their people over from a very great height is not indicative of anything other than the ongoing the ongoing taking of our resources by white supremacy. And that is supported by having black leaders that side with them, right? It would be much more difficult if they literally couldn't find a single black person to co-opt to say, this is a good thing. This white man over here paid me $1 million. He's a good man. Now all y'all pay your rent on time. Like they need that, right? That helps grease the wheels when you have, I don't like to overuse the word, but it's true when you have scum like Larry Elder and like Clarence Thomas and others. They are not interested in helping culture. They're interested in penalizing people. These are angry, bitter, vicious men who have feel they have been mistreated, and now whatever power they have is going to be dedicated to harming the people that are on their target list. These are not people who should be in positions of power.
Great, Jerry. And just one last thing. When people call in and say they think you're angry, bro, I don't think you're angry enough.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. We're taking your calls here at 818-985. You know, it's funny. The only people that call and say I'm too angry are white people. I've yet to have a black person call and say, Jerry, you too angry. It's like when I would go to poetry workshops. Back in the day, read my poems. All the white people be like, "Wow, that poem's real angry, Jerry." That never happened. I went to workshops run by black people. Anyway, I want to thank y'all all for calling in. I'm not too angry. I'm happy and angry. And you want to follow us, you can online. Just go to YouTube and search for Jerry Quickley and hit subscribe. You can also follow me online using the handle at Jerry Quickley on Twitter. Again, that's at Jerry Quickley on Twitter. The show is produced by myself and Jose Benavidez. Our board operator is Gary Baca. That's it, y'all. Until tomorrow.